Good morning. It is Coach Candy here, welcoming you to Coffee Chats. I hope y'all got your cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you get that gets you going in the morning. Welcome. This is Tuesday training, so we're going to get into some more deep work around how to create focus management. Good morning, Myra. Good morning, Paul. So just to recap, for those of you that might be joining us for the first time, I go live. Good morning, Deborah. I go live every morning, 7:30 Central Time, right here, the same station every day. And we get into just a lot of different topics, everything from Monday mindset to Tuesday training, Wednesday wonder, which is dancing in the possibilities. And, oh, that's so funny. Interesting. We'll have to tell me where you're at, Mara. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you had safe travels. Thursday is our thankful space, and then Friday is a feature space where I'm going to share some of my favorite books, podcasts, gurus, whatever it might be, so that we can have some conversation. So welcome, everyone. Good morning, Elaine. So for today, I want to continue in the theme around focus management. And for those of you that may not have been with us in the first couple sessions, when I talk about focus management, it's really about how you spend your focus. What happens is too many people get caught up in time management. And if you really think about it, time management is nothing more than watching a clock. You're just watching time go by. You're watching the seconds, you're watching the minutes, you're watching time just pass by, where focus management is about watching your impact. And so I want you to think about how you're being more purposeful and intentional in your day about showing up at your highest and best level so that you can create more impact and influence in the circles that you play in. And so we've had a lot of conversations about, good morning, Martha. We've had a lot of conversations around our bookends, which is how we start and end our day. We've talked a little bit about just really creating those power hours and starting your morning off in a very intentional space. When you look at the three pieces that you really need, you need that activate space or that move space. You need to get your body awake, the energy pumping, the oxygen flowing, the blood flowing, all of that. You need to make sure that your body is alive and awake and that you're getting your mind and your body prepared to jump into the day. And then we have the nourish space in the morning, which is all about feeding your soul. It's getting into that space so that you can deeply connect with yourself. And really ground yourself in who you are and how you want to show up. And that might be meditation or journaling or yoga. It might be some manifestation exercises, whatever that is, some inspiring music. And then the third piece of the morning is all about implementation or integration. So how are you going to structure your day with purpose so that you know what your priorities are and you know what you're going after? Well, we talked a little bit about, if you're going to set your intention for the day, what are the three priorities, right? And so at any time you're going to have three priorities. If you have more than three priorities, it's time to reprioritize because you're overwhelming yourself with too many to-dos and not clear focus about how to move the needle forward on your day. And so I want you to think about that for a minute. Three big priorities, for any given day, and then overall having three big rocks for what you're trying to move in the next 6 to 12 months. It's going to be significant for you to level up and get to, your next level. And so for those of you that were here, I mentioned that out of those three rocks, one of those really ought to be around your own self-care. Are you doing the things that feed your soul? Are you doing the things that nourish your body, spirit, mind deliberately throughout your day? And are you creating that white space, that play space so that you can really maximize your productivity and how you're showing up for other people? So when we talk about the three rocks, though, it gets really easy for people to get overwhelmed in that space because oftentimes the big rock might be something, and I'm going to use one as an example that'll be easy to follow along, I hope, and that say you want to have a book published by the end of the year. A lot of people I work with are coaches and entrepreneurs and business owners, and even in corporate, people have this desire to want to write a book. So that in itself could be a big rock, that one of your big rocks for this year is, I want to write a book and have it published so that it's out for public consumption by the end of the year. So think about that. If you just keep moving towards the outcome of that book, that seems a little daunting. There's a lot of pieces and parts inside that space. So I'm curious, if you think about writing a book. Let's talk about what some of the major milestones might be inside that space. And usually there's, 3 to 5 major milestones. There might be more, but typically I try to look for about 5 so that I can break down that big rock and look at what are going to be those kind of checkpoints, what are going to be those milestones, so that I know that I'm getting momentum forward and I'm taking the steps to do each task that needs to get done inside that big rock. So curious, if I say we're going to write a book by the end of the year, what's probably one of the, and if they don't have to go in order, just what would be a milestone inside that process or inside that objective that we would need to accomplish in order to get that momentum moving forward? So I'm curious, for those of you jumping on, I'm curious, what would be a major milestone? If you want to have a book published by the end of the year, what's one thing you're going to need to do or need to plan for inside that space? The title. Yes, so you're going to need a title for the book, right? And probably kind of a scope of what you want the book to be about. So you need some sort of plan around what's going to be your message, what you're going to write the book about to begin with. So it might be the title, it might be the context, it might be the kind of outline of how you want to set up the book. Let's see, you need a publisher. Yes, right? An outline, absolutely. Word count. Yes or no, depending on the kind of work. I think too many people get caught up on word count, but yes. But when you say word count, what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate that into you need words. If you're going to write a book, you need to have space to write. True. And so what happens is a lot of times people will be like, oh, I want to write a book by, and have it out by the end of the year. And right now we're going into May. So effectively there's 7 months left of the year to make that possible. And so what they do is they keep delaying the very things that they need to start taking action on, which one of them would be what's going to be the outline of the book, what's going to be the title, what's the book going to be about, and actually getting your word count or getting words on paper so that you have something to start to put together. Because once you have the words and you have the outline, what is going to probably happen next? I saw that publisher on there, but what's the next space? Let's see. Material to base the book off of. Absolutely, you need to know your context. So another thing might be you need to know how to edit the book, right? And this is something that, just as a side note, most people this is where writer's block comes in. Most people try to edit while they write. And what happens is you've got your right and left side of your brain competing with each other. You cannot edit and be in free flow creative space to really tap into your highest and best self. And what you need to do is literally just spew words, get into space and create space for just right time. Even if it's nonsensical kind of stuff that comes out, you need to be able to open up an outlet to be creative so that you can free flow, let it go, just let your thoughts go out and then come back later and edit and organize. And I actually have people that would challenge me on how I wrote a couple of my books. But my first book, I actually wrote 5 chapters in one night and 7 in another, because I just kind of vomited words. I just put them out there. I didn't even know what the title was going to be. I didn't know what my chapters were going to be. I sat in a space to say, you know what, before I start putting rules on this, how about I just sit in a space and let go or release all of that message that I wanted to put out there. And what was interesting is when I gave myself that creative space, I was able to then allow myself an opportunity to just let it go. And then when I came back and edited after, I didn't do it in this space, I came back, it's probably a week later, I came back to edit. It was amazing how themes started to create themselves. And the stuff that didn't fit, I could just put over here on a parking lot. And so it's really powerful when you let yourself just be creative. When you try to structure your creativity, you are competing with both sides of your brain and you're actually shutting down some of that creative flow. So I say that as a side note for some of you who are insistent on editing while you're trying to be creative and wondering why you have writer's block or why you feel stuck or why a million other things. It's because you're trying to use both sides of your brain at the same time and they're competing with each other. So just a FYI. Good morning, Jody. So back to our milestones, right? So a couple of the milestones, so we look at maybe 5. So let's say first we've got to kind of write the book. We've got to figure out kind of what's the context, the title, how we're going to organize and, put this whole book together. We need to edit the book. And then we need to figure out if we're going to self-publish, take a publisher, how we're going to go through that process. And then there's probably like a marketing or promotion piece, right? There's so many more milestones. I'm just giving you guys some examples. So, okay, so for the sake of kind of reverse engineering this, if we're still looking to get a book out by the end of the year, I want you to think about, okay, if it takes, how long do you think it probably takes to, I mean, I know I've done this, but on the very, very rapid, aggressive schedule, how long do you think it probably takes to promote and market your book before it's released, before you actually put it out for public consumption? Any thoughts on that? You guys are weighing in there. Oh, thank you, Jody. So I will tell you that you're probably going to need at least 6.5 weeks to 2 months to get your book properly promoted, get people like already interested. Because if you wait until your book is published to start promoting that it's available and out there, you're going to miss opportunity to get the kind of traction and sales that you want. So you're going to think about 3 months. Yeah, I would say, Myra, you're probably right. If you really want to do it right and create a community and get, because one of the best ways to get your book as an Amazon bestseller or New York Times bestseller, I mean, they're very big marketing plays. And it's about driving traffic to buy the book all at the same time. And it's creating communities and buzz and conversation. And so, yes, 3 months is not unheard of. And 3 months is actually pretty practical. So if you're thinking about 3 months just to market and promote, you probably need a finished product that's to your publisher before that, true, or in the works. Some of these are going to be kind of like a Gantt chart where they're going to run in parallel. So if it's 3 months to market, think about if you want this out, say by Christmas or by the end of the year, December 31st. 3 months out is November, October, September. So you at the very latest are going to want to start promoting and have your marketing campaign all together by the end of September. No, remember I said we're going into May. Okay, so if it's 3 months for marketing, how long do you think it takes to get the publisher, get all that worked out? 6 months. Yeah, for some people it's a much longer process. Absolutely. But you can see where I'm going with this, right? So think about it. If you're going to have a book out by the end of the year and you know it takes 3 months to market, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 months to get it edited and the publisher aligned and all that, if not much longer, depending on how you're going about it. If you self-publish, it's different. Still a process. But even still, now we're at September and you're going to back it up to August, June, July. That essentially gives you a month, maybe a month and a half, to write your book, get it edited enough to get it to a publisher, and to start down the process. And so what happens is people on their calendar will say, and they'll have this intention. And I talk a lot about intention without action is nothing more than lip service. And so when you think about wanting to get a return on investment, not a return on intention, you need to actually put the action forward. So then I would challenge that person, whoever's looking to write their book, let me see your calendar. Good morning, Tina. So then I would say, let me see your calendar. And what's astonishing to me is someone will say, I'm writing, that's my big goal for this year. I'm writing a book by the end of the year. We're going into May. And I look at someone's calendar and there is 0 time blocked out for writing. I mean, I'm just blown away at the fact that I know sometimes we get caught up in the busy. I do as well, even as disciplined as I am. But I'm going to be a little tongue-in-cheek and punchy here, but I think people think the magic book fairies are going to come and magically drop the words in that's just going to happen overnight, and they're going to just magically have this book. Your calendar dictates everything. What you schedule is what you do. What you honor says a lot about your commitment and whether or not you feel you're trustworthy. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, Shirley. So what do you think about that? If you're in that process of that major goal, when all you're doing is looking at the major goal and you haven't put the right milestones in place to make sure momentum's getting moving, it's like someone that's trying to run a marathon and they don't have a training plan. They just think they're going to go out and run 13.1 or 26.2. I did a half marathon. I'll never do a marathon. 26.2 miles just because they're going to do it. They'll kill themselves. There's people that have tried that. So the thing that's interesting is we have these long-range goals. We have these big rocks we're trying to move, yet we have nothing on our calendar, nothing that we've organized, nothing that we've gotten intentional about that creates momentum towards those major milestones so that we can actually achieve that goal. And what you need to do is you really need to look at reverse engineering what the outcome is you're trying to get and what are the components inside of that so that you can start to map out, okay, May and June means I need to lock down and make sure that a good chunk of my calendar is right space. If I'm going to have any chance of getting a book published this year, even if it's self-published, then I need to lock down and make sure that one of my biggest priorities every day is that I have a block of time, a power block. This is that really heads down present space that you don't have the phone going off, you're not checking emails, you're not getting distracted. This is that space where you get into a genius zone. You drop in, you get into a genius zone for an hour or two, not more than that. Because our brain actually can only stay really deeply present on something for about 75 to 90 minutes. We can stretch it to 2 hours, but then we need to get up and give ourselves a purposeful break. We need to recharge, we need to nourish, we need to move our bodies, we need to shift gears a little bit. And if you're trying to create that book, create that objective, and there is nothing on your calendar that is aligned with that big rock you're trying to move, I'm going to guess that the likelihood of you actually getting it done is pretty slim to none. And I say that because I see people all the time, yeah, book fairies, right? I see people all the time that'll say, I'm going to do these big things. And then, or they set, New Year's resolutions, which I'll get on next year, but I am so not a fan of New Year's resolutions. I think they actually set people up for success because there's not a plan behind it. It's a nice intention. It's a nice airy-fairy kind of like wish, and oftentimes it's so big that it becomes daunting so quickly that there's no momentum that ever gets started in that process. And so what I want you to think about is, one, going back and reestablishing what are your three rocks for the rest of this year. 3, like I said, anything more than 3, you need to reprioritize, because the word priority was singular for 500 years before someone else felt, good morning, James, felt that we had to create, a plural version of that word. And so I want you to think about the fact that when you've got a big rock, when you're trying to move that mountain forward, instead of getting all lost and locked and in that daunting space of, oh my God, that's huge, I don't know how I'm going to accomplish that, reverse engineer it back and start looking at those major milestones or those checkpoints of what do I need to do? What are going to be the pockets of work or things that need to be accomplished in order to get that done? Because here's the thing, the book's not going to write itself. The book's not going to edit itself. The book's not going to publish itself. And until you get clear on, these are the steps that are required that I know that I have access or control or need to figure out how to move them forward, then you can start to put together a real plan that is mirrored by what you're scheduling for yourself on your calendar. Because what you schedule is actually going to be what you prioritize. What you just talk about is going to be lip service until you start putting action in place. Power block, yes. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about where you're creating those power blocks, because if your calendar right now is not 75 to 80% aligned to those big rocks that you're trying to create for yourself for this year, it's time to completely overhaul your calendar. What happens is most people have it in reverse. They have maybe 20% of their calendar focused on the things that are going to actually be those things that are the needle movers, those things that are going to get them momentum, those things that are going to help them level up their game to the next tier. Maybe 20% of their calendar. The rest of it's a bunch of busy work that's other people's dumping grounds, or it's other people's, delegation or responsibilities, or just spaces where you've gotten caught up saying yes to too many things, where you don't know how to effectively say no, where you're not prioritizing. And so we walk around going, there's not enough hours in the day. I can't possibly take on another project. I know I really want to get this done, and this would be such a game changer for me. I just don't have time to fit it in. If you're finding yourself saying that, I want you to hit the pause button, and I want you to completely look at your calendar and say, all right, what needs to be pulled off? And one of the things that I do, and we're going to continue to dig into this, but I'm actually releasing it today, so it's going to be available, is I have a full system on how to build your ideal calendar that's really powerful and really easy, and it's going to completely turn the way you approach your calendar inside out and upside down. I am going to approach it from a way that seems counterintuitive, because it's going to be all about mapping out what you need and desire first and creating the pockets so that you can really create momentum over those 3 big rocks that you're looking for. And it's about making sure that you have those morning and evening rituals. It's making sure that you have the bookends in place. It's making sure that you're spending your highest and best time, your energy when it's most focused and energized and vibrant, that you're spending it in your genius zone, that you're spending it in your pockets of greatness, that you're spending it in space that's going to really be momentum movers and game changers. And so I want you to think about, I want you to look at your calendar right now and say, how much of this is really helping me move the needle forward, or how much of this is just a lot of stuff that I've gotten caught up in, so that you can start pulling things off. And I'm going to teach you a way to build the calendar without starting in your Google Calendar, your iCal, and starting clean, so that you can map out your ideal calendar and then start pulling or moving the things off that don't serve. So curious about what questions you have, thoughts as we're talking about this. How's that resonating for you, the milestones that you need inside of those big rocks to actually move the needle forward? I'll stop here for a minute while I'm waiting for you guys to weigh in a little bit. I know we have a delay sometimes, so I like to make sure that you guys can weigh in and have thoughts, because this, again, as always, and I know we have some really good discussion every morning. It's not just me sitting here talking to you guys. I want to make sure I'm answering questions, that if you have additional comments or thoughts that you want to add, that we can do that as well. So any thoughts around that? Can you see how that can be powerful for really being more intentional about how you're going about executing your day, how you're going about showing up and serving others? Can you see how that's going to actually help you create momentum to accomplish the things you say is most important, versus just talking about it? We do a lot of talking. We do a lot of wishing. We do a lot of planning. We don't do enough executing. We don't do enough of the right daily discipline. We don't do enough action to actually move that forward. And so I'm not seeing any more comments right now. So I want you to think about that. I want you to go into your calendar. I want you to think about, and first it starts with really getting clear, because if you're just creating milestones for the sake of milestones, you're just creating one more layer of busy for the sake of being busy. And so this is an opportunity for you to create a pause, to ask yourself and be really honest with yourself. Not what you think you should be working on, not what someone else has told you your big rock is, but I want you to think about, what are my 3 big rocks for the remainder of this year? And again, I'm going to encourage you that one of those big rocks is about your own self-care. It's your own feeding your soul space. It's your own place to really hone your craft, to level up your game, to play, to take time, to breathe. Let's see, Robin, I'm one who sees the big picture, so planning ahead is really critical for me, but you've made some good points about being more intentional. Love that. Love that that's helpful. Good morning, Mario. This is very helpful today, as I made a clear decision on focusing on my house and health this year. Excellent. And so Jody, now that you've got, and so this is a great example of kind of that next piece. Once you've got I know what the big rocks are, then the next piece, before you even put those milestones in place, is, how am I going to measure success in that space? What is it I'm actually looking to accomplish? So for you, Jody, I would say, what is it about my house that I want? Is it that I'm looking to buy a house? Is it looking that I'm looking to do some renovations? Is it looking that I'm putting time and effort into my house? What is that actual outcome that you're looking to engage in? And same with your health. And it's, some people will be like, oh, I just want to lose 20 pounds. And I'm going to challenge you to not focus on what you don't want. We've talked about this before as well. Don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you're moving towards. So if you feel like you're like, well, I don't want this anymore. I want to lose weight. I want to push this way. Think more about, I want to feel more energized. I want my clothes to fit better. I want to be able to be more mobile and agile and whatever that might be. I want to look and feel my best. Think about moving towards, or even if you're going to use the word release instead. And I'll get into some more semantics about words later on, but that space of being able to qualify and quantify what success looks like for you in those spaces, because that will also help you when you start to create your milestones to know what are the metrics. And again, some of it's just a feeling. So the qualifying, the qualitative space. And then there's also the more tangible stuff. And so when you have those goals, make sure that you know clearly what the metrics are for success for you. Again, not by anybody else's standards, for you, so that then you can start to reverse engineer that and create the milestones that are going to help you be successful in that space. Everything else has been made secondary. I love that. Good morning, Victoria. Welcome. Love that you're joining us. Clean and clear the clutter on both. Excellent. I love that. And so that might be something. So if, say, for example, you're cleaning the clutter from your home, a lot of people get overwhelmed because they're like, oh my God, I really have to clean my house and organize and purge. And it's so daunting because their house is so big. So what you do is create milestones that say, okay, we're going to start with the garage. Then we're going to work into the closet space. Then we're going to work into bedrooms. And you actually create ways and pockets so that you're not overwhelming yourself. You're staging it out and you're allowing yourself those successful wins. Because the other thing that's really important in your milestones, and I cannot stress this enough, is the giving yourself permission to celebrate those milestones as you've achieved them. And even if you missed a deadline, celebrating the progress you made, adjust, get back on track. But celebrating your wins along the way is absolutely critical for keeping your momentum and motivation aligned and energized and moving forward. Because a lot of times people are like, okay, accomplish that, next. And when it's just a check the box and you just keep burning and, whining and grinding and burning and churning, you will get burnt out in the process. You need to take a pause. It's the other beautiful thing about the milestones. Take a pause and say, how can I celebrate my progress to date? And I'm going to get into some things that are going to be tools to help you measure progress on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis as we get into some things. But for now, I just want you to start to get clear on your 3 big rocks and your 5 major milestones, or whatever the quantity is of your milestones. Elaine, have to think about the positive outcomes and what needs to get done. What needs to be done to get there? Absolutely. And so even ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And for those of you that have done a life script with me, I ask you, so describe to me when you arrive at this point, what are you going to see? What are you going to hear? How are you going to feel? Engage your senses, and then create a really colorful description around what that outcome looks like. This is the power of visualization. And we talked about, the sensory visualization, being able to engage your senses, and then also looking at the visualization from both you feeling like you're doing it and you being able to see yourself doing it from the outside. And so when you get clear about what's that feel like, what's that look like, what are you tasting, what are you seeing, what are you hearing, and you can see yourself actually engaged in the outcome itself and watching and being witness to that, you start to create really powerful ways to stay connected to what you say is important, because it's a big rock for a reason. There's going to be spaces and pockets that make you uncomfortable. It's a big rock that's helping grow you. So there's going to be times where you're going to be like, I don't want to do this, and you're going to throw in the towel. And you need things. I need things. Please, as disciplined as I can be, I am very quick to convince myself why I should not have to do this, or why I don't feel like it, and I have to keep myself in a place where my intention is aligned to the overall end game, so that I know I can show up. And sometimes I'll trick myself and say, you know what, Candy, just give yourself 30 minutes, just work for 30 minutes. Then if you don't feel like it, you can have a break. And what's always amazing is once I get into it, the momentum starts to move. Because again, if you're waiting to be motivated to get momentum, you're going to be waiting for a really long time. You need to get momentum moving to get motivated. Motivation often requires us to be in movement, us in action. And so if you're waiting to be inspired and motivated, you may be waiting again for the little fairies to come down and sprinkle the dust on you, and you're going to be waiting for a really long time. So I say that. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see, regaining strength, vitality, flexibility, dance, and sing through it. Oh, I love that. Good morning, Tim. I love that. I love that. We all should have some more dance and singing and playtime in our life. So that's what I got for y'all this morning. I hope that is helpful. Again, I want to make sure that you're positioning yourself for a place of focus management, not time management. Stop watching the clock. Stop counting how many hours you have or don't have. Stop being in this place to complain about how there's not enough hours in the day. That is a time management space, and it's a time suck. What I want you to do is really shift into more of a focus management space, which says I'm managing my impact. I'm managing how I'm choosing to show up and serve, and how I'm choosing to take personal responsibility, because then you can start to ask yourself the question, is everything I'm doing aligned to what I say is most important to me? to how I want to show up and serve others. And by the way, we're going to get into a little work on your what, why, and who. For those of you that have worked with me, you know that this is critical. It also helps as you're looking at your 3 big rocks. We need to know what it is we want to create or influence or impact in this world, why it matters to us, and who we serve in that space, because that also helps us qualify how we start to move forward and what are those metrics and the spaces that we show up and play in. So with that, I hope you found Tuesday training to be helpful. These are definitely disciplines that require patience, they require consistency, and they require an opportunity for you to ask yourself, is what I'm doing getting me what I really want? Because if you keep insisting on doing the same things, thinking that you're going to level up or change your game, you are the very definition of insanity. And you know that. I don't have to tell you that. So stop thinking that what you've done to get you here is going to take you to the next level. You're all on these calls for a reason. So it's time to get really honest and pull things back and ask yourself, what am I willing to change? What am I willing to create as a new habit and discipline? And what am I willing to take responsibility for to move forward? And so I just encourage you to do that. Thank you. Have an awesome day, you too. And stay tuned, because I will be posting the new Yes Ideal Calendar system here today. It's a really easy way for you to access all of what I've talked about in a very comprehensive way that organizes it and helps you really restructure how you're using your calendar. Because one of the things we have an opportunity to do is stop saying that our calendar is running our life and realize that it is a tool and a resource for us to manage our life on our terms, our way. So as always, requires you saying yes to yourself. Roxanne, good morning. Love all of you being on here. I hope you make it a terrific and just absolutely fantastic Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow, Wednesday Wonder. We will play in the Imagine the Possibilities space again and let our imagination dance and sing, as Jody said. So anyway, sending great love to all of you. Cheers, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Mwah.